I like to just play the advocate, and I feel as DG, now the attitude of officers has totally neutralized and it's very positive. Probably politicians need to work a bit harder in accepting women officers even now in the field postings. But I remember the same officer who treated you the way you wrote later on became politician.
Yes.
And he met you
MLC.
somewhere and he said people think very highly of you.
Yes.
What was the feeling? Did you feel that, oh, I have taken the revenge?
No, I did not feel like that. And he came and he was contesting. He had already become an MLC, the council. And he went around Bokaro and everywhere he went, people must have talked about me. So he came to my house, and this time he was in a different dress. He was in a kurta and dhoti. And I had to welcome him to my house. I still served him because he was my boss previously. But to give him credit, he accepted and he said that, but he didn't say that I had not judged, I had judged you like that. That he didn't say. He said that I'm very happy that you are doing so well. People have a lot of regard for you, and it gives me a lot of happiness. So I just accepted it because in the police hierarchy, we are so hierarchy bound that there are very few occasions when you can be taught. We were never taught at that time, nor is it like that. People may discuss more, DGs will be more open now to discuss some ideas, but surely you can't tell him that, sir, that day you said this to me. You can't. That scope is not there in any service, but in the police there is no scope at all. So I accepted it very gracefully as to whatever he had to say, and thank you.
So let's talk a bit about your assignments. Now, many of us would remember Bhagalpur blindings. And I think it was called, even a movie was made, Ganga Jal.
Yes.
It was called Operation Ganga Jal. Those who do not know, the acid was put in the eyes of many alleged criminals, not criminals, alleged criminals. And a lot of people celebrated it and said that, oh, it's like akin to, like we wash our sins with the Ganga Jal. And you were asked to go and inquire after these blindings. Now, why I am asking you, even till date, of course, you please, you will tell me what did you say and how did you feel, because it's like an ethical dilemma. On one end, you feel that people are, what they have done is wrong. On the other hand, you see people who are rejoicing and celebrating, but it keeps happening even today. And there are, every time there is a rape, people talk about castration, shoot them down, or even in murders now, shoot the criminals down is so often. So, what do you have to share about this Bhagalpur? You submitted a report. I'm sure you hurt many people on the wrong, you touched many people on the wrong side.
So I was still very young when I was drafted for this Bhagalpur blinding. I had not yet done a district. I had done a subdivision, a top subdivision. I had done Danapur. That also after a lot of pushing myself and telling the DG, sir, I have to do a subdivision. If you don't give me a subdivision, my career will be finished. I've written a whole chapter on that, how tough it was to get a subdivision. I was doing a pen pusher's job in the CID, a very boring job. All my batchmates were already handling subdivisions and talking about this, that and the other. I was like a spare person in the CID that needed a team. Indira Gandhi had asked the Chief Minister that immediately some action should be taken. So the team, which was headed by Mr. L.V. Singh, was the DIG under whom I had trained, and he took me to Bhagalpur. When we arrived to Bhagalpur, just to put you in the perspective, as Praveen says, there was slogan shouting against us. The entire Bhagalpur town was up in arms, and people were shouting slogans against the team which had arrived. And we thought that maybe this is orchestrated by the policemen who had indulged in this crime. But soon we discovered it was not true, because even when we arrived in the circuit house, people came and started shouting slogans and saying that we should go back in the same helicopter in which we have come and all. But we stayed back and started our inquiries. We felt that the public was unnecessarily talking like this, because when next morning the people who had been blinded came in front of us. It was a horrible sight, as anyone can imagine, eyes gouged, all these acid put. But the public was roaring. They were very happy that this has happened, and this is because criminals had been taken to task. Because one famous criminal there, Anil Yadav, his method was to kidnap people, kill them, and cut the body into parts and throw it in the Ganga. So the body was never found. He was the most notorious criminal in Bhagalpur in those days. He would rape the women in front of the family. There was a woman I've written about, it is written in the book, with her breast chopped and raped in front of the family. So it was like that. Now when I started doing the inquiry, as Praveen has mentioned, that how do you do an inquiry against your own sub-inspectors who are doing this to control crime? And it is a fact that crime was controlled in Bhagalpur. It is a fact that people got so scared that they stopped, they ran away from Bhagalpur. But the dilemma was that many of the people who were blinded were not really hardened criminals. They were very, very petty people. Like one person, I remember Suresh Shah, I remember some of the names. Now my memory is very bad, but of that time. He was agitating for daily wages of a particular amount. And then the person the zamindar or the person who owned that field told the sub-inspector that, look, this man is creating trouble in my field. Please take him away and fix him. So this petty landless laborer was picked up and blinded. So there were cases like this. A petty Eve teaser, he was a sardar. He was picked up and blinded. So there were these very, very hard cases. So I learned very early in my career, and I have adhered to it completely, because my own PA's brother, who was a young sub-inspector, was also indicted in this. He was also involved in this blinding, and my PA would keep saying, madam, please help my brother. His career will be finished. He has just joined the service. He's a sub-inspector, and in Bihar or anywhere else, a sub-inspector's job is a big thing. So those dilemmas for a young IPS officer, 6 to 7 years of service, was really there. But that also taught me a lesson, and I don't condone this. Even if they say that rapists should be killed and all, I have not been able to condone this. It always reminds me as to that this track is laden with a lot of problems. It has even the recent incident of Hyderabad. We are reading what is happening. In UP, my batchmates would come in the training at the NP and tell us, oh, we have 20 down, 15 down, but we could not indulge into it. And even when I became DIG Patna, I put a complete stop to it. I could not tolerate this, and I don't think that it pays in the long run. Somewhere it will catch up, and somewhere the police gets into trouble. Then only we get into the trouble, nobody else helps us out that time. Neither the courts, the public, or anybody, they will not. So it's at your own risk, and it's not a very good thing.
Maybe it was ingrained in your genes, because I remember in UPSC interview you were asked a question.
Yes.
If a criminal is running, will you shoot him down? And you were nonplussed, you didn't know what to answer.
Exactly.
And you said, if law permits it, I will shoot him.
Yes.
Anyway, coming to something more interesting. You went to Bokaro and you were known as Antarwali. Now, did you enjoy it, or you felt embarrassed, and how did you get this reputation?
No, to this
Was it
day-
Bokaro? Am I right?
What?
It
It was in
Bokaro.
Bokaro. So this Hunterwali thing, I really don't know how it happened.
What did you do to be called an Hunter?
Maybe because I was very strict with this wearing of helmet, because we had so many accidents. The major crime in Bokaro was accidents. Can you believe it? It's not a priority for any superintendent of police, traffic accidents. But in Bokaro, it is a township laid out in the Russian pattern with straight roads and blocks. So the roads are all at 90 degrees. And during the change of shift, people are driving at the highest speed to reach on time their workplace inside the plant. So we would have accidents almost every day. So the minute I joined, when I saw the crime graph, I said, let's start this system of everybody wearing helmets, and the police must patrol the area where the entry to these plants are. you know, these public sector plants, I don't know whether you have something like that in Karnataka, but in those there are 40,000, 50,000 workers. Each shift about 15,000 people plus 15,000 laborers entering the plant. There are not one gate, there are 9 to 10 gates from which this movement is taking place. And at that time the entire township comes to a halt, nothing happens except the movement of the manpower. So I was everywhere, the men were everywhere, I was everywhere checking gates, ensuring that nobody does this thing. It paid dividends. I've also mentioned that story when a woman clung to me and said that you have saved my husband because he was wearing a helmet. He doesn't listen to us. Women folk का कोई बात नहीं सुनता है. You are a woman and you ensured it. So I feel it came from there, but I have never enjoyed that reputation. I didn't like it. And my parents were quite horrified. And I have mentioned in the book that even my DIG somehow enjoyed sometimes these things, because he narrated to me an incident which I have recorded in the book. That one day he tells me that he was at some party and people were telling him that the SP is such a strong, tagda person that she pushes a truck and it moves. So people like to talk, people who had not seen me, because I must be much younger and more, what should I say, thinner and younger looking, and still to say that I could push a truck. So I never liked it. I'm even till today I'm embarrassed about it because it gives a different image from what I really am.
So let's talk about your years in NPA, and you have called these years as your golden years in your profession. And I also read that before you Kiran Bedi was asked and she said no.
Yeah, that
And you gave up all the, all the aram and all the facilities of state police. That time NPA didn't have much facilities, it was a tough life. So just tell us your years in NPA.
So I had already put in 8 years of service. I was considered a successful SP of Bokaro, even though I had to do a lot of penance, lot of requesting everybody to post me to a district. All my batchmates went to a district, but I am again posted to the CID doing nothing. And when I was finally posted to Bokaro, I think I was able to do fairly well in Bokaro. One fine morning, Mr. Ribeiro called up. I had never ever met Mr. Ribeiro. I didn't even know his name. And I was told by the Home Secretary that there is a call from Mr. Ribeiro and they are asking for you. Will you be willing to go? And my husband said that yes, we should go to NPA.